Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. And a bit of a break from the norm today. Obviously, you guys have seen me with Professional Strongman before, but this one's a little bit different. I wanted to break down and give an opportunity for this guy to speak because he is, without question, one of the most influential individuals in the history of strength sport. This man is widely responsible for the growth of strength sport alongside his partner, Darren Sadler. And many of you who are fans of the sport will know this guy's face instantly. And you'll certainly know his voice if you've ever watched Strongman pretty much anywhere in the world. Ladies and gents, welcome Mr. Colin Bryce to the show. Colin!
Yay!
How are you doing, mate?
The fans are a problem. It's quite hot here. The fans are a problem.
I was going to say, you've been knocking about with Eddie Hall. I can't be stopped. Usually it's only when you get around the 200 kilo mark you start doing that, mate. So I think you have some room to go.
It's quite hot. I'm in my garden office as we all are doing our bit from home. So it's kind of sweaty in here. It's actually because the legal limit, if anyone's watching this around the world, for a garage without proper true planning permission or whatever it is only, 2.5 meters. And obviously me being massive and doing lots of clean and jerks, I had to put in some big skylights to be able to actually press the weights in my garage. So I've got them kind of draped over here, but it's great. It's basically a glass house and I'm inside a drape inside a glass house. So if I start sweating profusely, I'm not having a heart attack. I might be having a heart attack. That's always possible. But, it's just hot.
Well, Cole, thanks for coming on the show, mate. And obviously you're an extremely busy guy, and it's good to have you in here. As I said at the start of the show there, I just wanted to really give you a forum and an opportunity that I'm quite excited about to sort of break down the history and the making of Colin Bryce and your involvement in strength sports generally, because it really is pretty much unrivaled, mate. I think it's fair to say that you've been extensively involved in strongman from many years ago to the present day, and pivotally involved in strength sports emergence or strongman's emergence, certainly in the arena show environment, mate. Alongside Darren Sadler, I think it's fair to say you've taken this sport to a place it's never been, and I'm sure that makes you very proud. What I wanted to do was sort of start a lot earlier than that, though, mate, and understand a bit more about you. So I suppose a good place to start really would be, what was your early involvement in, or at what point as a child, as a youth, did you sort of get involved in or interested in strength sports, Colin?
Good question. I guess it's, we all have some kind of a mentor figure, and I guess I was very lucky in that it was my dad. My dad was, in my eyes, a sort of superstar, and quite a few people's eyes. Highland Games was what I was brought up around in Scotland, and I've done a few arm wrestles, might I say, the Highland Games. There's anything for a fiver at the Highland Games, and that's, I guess that's partly why. I used to joke that was my company motto: anything for a fiver. That was us. I'll throw, I'll lift, I'll commentate, I'll do anything for a fiver. So for those around the world, that's $5 basically. But yeah, no, it's watching those growing up. I always also knew there was a purse, a bit of money to be won, and I loved the idea of professional sport. I was also rather taken by, in the 1970s, growing up around my dad, who was a good 300-pounder, and he was, different Commonwealth Games and all that stuff. Great Britain athletics team.
Really?
I used to hang out with guys like Jeff Capes and people like that, and I just found it rather, I guess, somewhat magnetic, the giant heavies, and the way, at least in our slightly ridiculous circles, Neil, often being a giant guy, kind of came with, it doesn't always come with giant, great character of mine, but most certainly it was a thing to be admired. And also promoting was a sort of natural thing for an old school hustler like me. I was kind of born on the hustle. Just can't help myself, it's always, I don't want to say, make myself sound too cheap here, but, it's fun, isn't it? I mean, putting something together, a whole show together, And there's not always been a success, that's for sure. But from the very first Highland Games I put on to, coming up through doing other strongman stuff. And if I'm honest, it's like the harder you work, the luckier you get. And actually, I just had a bit of luck one day, which is what kind of helped propel me up the kind of, gave me the chance to start doing more high-end stuff than general low-end. But, I've always been around strongman. I feel like a spoilt little boy with a silver spoon when it comes to the strongman crew, because, others maybe had, vast riches or whatever, but I was able to hang out with, everyone from Capes through to John Paul Sigmarsson. John Paul Sigmarsson took me when I was 13 to an Iceland-Scotland wrestling match. Not many people can say that,
No, they really can't.
And that's got John Paul's jacket on the other side of my gym, come garage, come shoffice, whatever this is. I used to wear that. Actually, I used to wear it at university. It's a full blue shell suit from the 1980s. And I blew the arse out the trousers squatting when I was a bit heavier. It's sacrilegious to think what I did to that tracksuit, because it's one of the, has John Paul written on the back from, 1985 or something. Yeah.
What a piece of memorabilia that is, mate. So your sort of fascination with strength sport really began in the Capes, John Paul Sigmarsson, that type of era. That was when you really were first introduced or immersed within it.
Yeah. I think everybody, it's always quite funny really when like someone like, chatting to Eddie, I suddenly realized one day, this is 10 years ago now, that, I said, who's your heroes? I expected him to come out with people like, Kazmar, John Paul, Magnus Fair, maybe Gary Taylor or Jamie Reeves, the British stars of the strength sport from the 80s and early 90s. And of course he said, Terry Hollins. And I thought, my goodness me, it's amazing that you forget how, look at us, silver hairs. And whatnot, of course, people like Eddie and the true greats always learn their sport. They learn their craft. They learn everybody. They learn the whole history. 10 years, maybe 8 years later, funny enough, talking about Eddie, I asked him again, who's your hero in the sport? And as he was about to answer, I teased and said, still Terry Hollins. And he went, oh, come on, don't mock me. Terry's a great guy. I said, yeah, Terry is a great guy. He did some great things for Britain.
Yeah, he really did.
He was a moving refrigerator. It was just giant back, in the early days. Mm-hmm. And, he said Louis Cyr.
Wow. Taking it all the way back.
Yeah. I thought, you really have? You've been schooled.
Never seen a painting or a photograph, but seen a few drawings, sketches. And myth and legend. It's funny, we
big press over dumbbells, you see, overhead guy. Ed loved that,
He sort of transcended strength, Louis Cyr. One of the stories that, in fact, funny thing, I had a guy you're probably familiar with, a fellow called Travis Bajan, another beast, who was on the show the other day doing an interview with Trav, and
loved him. He's great. He's still up there.
Oh yeah. Travis is still, he's there. He may be lying in wait in the background, but yeah, and in the shadows. But believe me, Travis is still for real. We were talking about his
Has age mellowed him at all? Because I remember that some documentaries.
Hell no, no, not really. He's a fabulous dad, Travis, at the moment. But it's funny. We were talking about his history, and exactly as we are now, sort of walking through chronologically. And his dad, Jerry Boyd, had a place called Billy Jack's Bar and Grill, where he was from in West Virginia. And it was sort of a mecca, a shrine to arm wrestling and all things strength, And on the wall of Billy Jack's there, what is there? I've only been once in my life, but what is there? There's a little piece about Louis Cyr. It says the strongest man in history, Louis Cyr, and he's there on the wall at Billy Jack's. And I suppose that was always, it's always been, a lot of people have considered Louis Cyr sort of an icon of strength that's transcended the ages. Were you sort of fascinated by characters like that? Did you become aware and study characters like that back in the day, mate, when you were a kid?
I have a book. It's a fabulous book, and I think I found it in my grandfather's house. And my grandfather passed away decades ago. but it had in it, I think it was called Super Athletes by somebody Willoughby. If you can get a hold of a copy, it's one of the most magnificent reads of all time. And this guy charts the history of strength from the early times and all the records. I don't know when Guinness World Records began, but I imagine they used Willoughby's. I mean, it's got everything in there from, 19th century keg lifting in Bavaria and what, I don't know, von Appel and von Strudel lifted in some bar. I mean, it was ridiculous. It's even got things like the cycling, 400-yard record from, right the way back when bicycles were first, invented. And it had these one-finger world records, two-finger world records. And hopefully there's a few proper hardcore geeks out there also nodding. Yeah, I got that book. It's great. Anyway, it's, I was always a stats and figures kind of a guy. I guess I'm somewhat, sort of scientific as a background, sort of. I think we all rather like, if you like training, you like numbers, you like training diaries, you like progression, you like to see records, you like to see, how far you are away. And, I often, plotted percentages and all kinds of little mad things, because I love the Guinness World Records as it was my number one Christmas present went through the sort of, late 70s and early 80s. Mm-hmm. I could get a copy of that. And I was well happy, And to be honest, I didn't really like it when they moved it to lots of photographs. I just liked stats. I like figures and facts. So, yeah.
Yeah, people probably don't know, and I don't want to deviate too far initially from your own involvement as an athlete as well, because I think that's overlooked, and you sort of make light of it a lot. But I'm not going to let you get away with that one. We are going to talk about that today. But I know the Guinness Book of World Records was that thing where you always used to look through and everybody had the little area you'd go to straight away. With me, I used to like it was going to be what's the biggest shark in the world and stuff like that you're always fascinated with. And then straight after that, it'd always be around, who was the strongest guy. And there was always, Paul Anderson. And there was a lot of things in there that were noted. But when you first got involved with strength, mate, did you see yourself, or was the aspiration to be the competitor? Were you going to be the world's strongest man one day, Colin? Because obviously people may not know you went into strongman. You were a competitor yourself.
Yes, and I was good at a few things. I wasn't bad at anything moving. Moving out. And I guess everyone slightly reflects their own abilities and what strongman should be. Kazmar. He'd probably have it turning into a powerlifting contest. You know what I mean? Yep. For me, a few moments. I can remember doing the original set of Atlas Stones, and we were at the Highland Games in Edinburgh, and I guess I'd be maybe 21, and I can't remember. It wasn't Grizz. It wasn't Grizz. It was some other huge American was there. And there was only one or two guys did it in the strongman, but at the same time, Doug Edmonds put on the games. His great name, Doug Edmonds, promoter legend, Dr. Edmonds. And I was there. I'd run around, put the equipment out with his son, Gregor, who went on to a World's Strongest Man final. Yeah. Now, he was 19 and, rake thin, and I was 21. And I was there shot putting Highland Games, doing my bit. There was guys like, Matt Sanford and these kind of guys, top end guys, big crowd. It was maybe 1,500 people or something. It was good. And I remember throwing and then ran over and said, "Can I have a go?" And I timed it just perfectly. You've got to time these things right. And Big Grizz had a go. And I think maybe one or two other slightly, ham and egg Scottish guys had a go, had all the right tattoos, but and the big muscle baggies, but maybe weren't very strong. Mm-hmm. And I think Davey Webster let me go because he went, right, let the young fella go. We always, part of the Highland Games, this is where you sort of learn little tricks. No matter what happened in the previous event, the caber comes, the best caber tosser goes last. And you've got to have a caber that is failed by 80% of the field. So they can be, and everyone suddenly sees it. And even if you're an imbecile, and you have no idea how the caber really works, you can guess after seeing, down again. No. And then along comes whatever, Big Tam, and he knocks it over, shtaboomf, and everyone, the roar of the crowd. So, and I knew 3 or 4 guys had gone. Anyway, I went and had to go there, and I'd never done it before, and I banged him out in some terrifying time. I don't know, 50 seconds or something. That last one took me forever. But I did it, and I remember Webster's face, old David, bless him, and he's still around, but bless him anyway. But he was chewing a lemon, looking at me like, Bryce, you were meant to be what do they call it in wrestling? In the kayfabe, basically you've got a face and then you've got a heel. You were meant to be a stooge. You weren't meant to come out and do it. Because and that is part of the beauty of strongman is actually nothing's ever fake. It's to really pull the strings of a crowd, In fact, I'm going to chuck something in here. I'm going to give one to all of those dozens of other promoters. There was this fantastic theatre director came in 2007-8, and he watched shows that we were doing, super series we were back then, me, Ode Haugen, and Ofer Benson. And he watched 2 of them, actually. He didn't give me any comments. And I remember his words. He said, you'll never have 5 stars out of 5 as a review on a show until you've got the drama, you've clearly got the world-class guys, you've got this and that, you've even got them building up. I can see you've got that just right, Colin, and then the best guy does it and everyone cheers and roars. You've got the Russia versus America, you've got the whatever versus... But until you have comedy, you'll never have 5 stars out of 5. And that's where Neil Pickup comes in, ladies and gentlemen. Here he is! And I throw it back to you. Because actually, I think as a unit, until we knew each other for a few years, God knows how we knew each other, but we knew each other for some reason. I think we'd even arm wrestled with each other in a random... We did that. In a hotel, it happened. That's so weird. I can't even no idea how that happened.
I'll tell you where it was. It's the Cheshunt Marriott. That's where it was. The Cheshunt Marriott near Enfield.
So bizarre, isn't it? I gone anyway. There were you and I, twisting away and arm wrestling away in some. It's quite ridiculous. But anyway, 2-3 years later, you became seeing our shows. Better be honest about this now. You are with Giants Live, and God forbid you ever leave us, because I loved your. Everyone knows you as the big voice from all the promo stuff, but actually, it's your. Sorry to get all kissy with you here on this, and we'll have a little loving, but I love, your a rapier like a wit, monsieur, you carve guys up, but always in a great way. So anyway, 5 stars out of 5 comedy is what you need.
We can do that though at Giants Live, because one thing I will say about, and we're jumping way ahead of ourselves, but one thing I will say about the Giants Live crew, it's fantastic. It's like a giant family. I mean, just an absolutely great set. Steady on, son.
Richard Gag, I'm talking about it.
I thought it killed COVID there for a minute. Any attempts?
Box there, whiskey empty box there. Anyway, I think it's all kind of clean behind. Sorry.
So getting back to you sort of in your involvement as an athlete, mate, as a competitor, at the time when you started doing the Highland Games, did you ever get that twinge of, okay, I'm quite an athlete, I'm quite a strength athlete myself? I mean, I know you don't want to blow your own trumpet, but you must have had an inkling when you're doing things like that you had some real athletic prowess, and you obviously went on to compete in the Olympic Games, Colin, in bobsleigh.
I could blow my own trumpet. I'd never leave my garden office, Neil.
Never. No, lock-in wouldn't be so bad then, would it, mate? No. That's it. Felix never goes out.
It's only rude if you're old enough. That's the genius. Anyway, yeah.
Mark Felix started lockdown in November.
Oh, man. Anyway.
Mark, badly. He's a quiet guy. I know.
Bloody legend. Anyway, where were we going with that one? Where were we going? Did I ever think I was a good athlete? I still don't.
You must have done, mate. You must have done. I mean, you can't play it that. You must have. If you're going out and you're doing what you did, and people that know you know that you've got some real power, you must have thought at that time, yeah, I got something here.
Do you know, if I was to take the world on at one event, and it doesn't exist, it would be probably the 2-footed jump onto a very high block. That was, I can remember getting the British bobsleigh. There was a bobslayer, when you sort of, I guess in truth, everyone starts out wanting to be probably a football, soccer player if you're British, and football player, whatever, I don't know, if you're America, or, it's kabaddi if you're India, whatever, cricketer, maybe if you're from Bangladesh, or sumo wrestler. Anyway, I think I always thought athletics was the purest form because my dad was a hammer thrower.
Sure.
And his joke was always, listen, Colin, I wanted to be a shot putter. But when you fail that, you go to discus. And then once you fail the discus, you go to hammer. And he sort of saw javelin guys as, the kind of low end. Anyway, I always wanted to be a sprinter. I ended up, or shot putter as well, or weightlifter. But anyway, I must have slightly failed at all those, Neil. And I very much failed at all of them, powerlifting and things. I tried them all. And I guess, seriously, I'm not putting myself down for effect. I'm just putting the history down a wee bit. Strongman, there just aren't. When I came to Strongman, I was a Highland Games guy. And, when I was talking about that Edinburgh story earlier, the big guy from America I duffed up, he claimed to be a world's strongest man at the time. He was some random bloke. And he was a power lifter. That's why he claimed it. And, you see where I'm coming from with this? There's a whole generation. I remember sitting with Kevin Nee and Dave Oslin, in maybe 05. And I remember, or maybe 06. And Kazmar said to me, can you believe this, Colin? These guys, or Kazmar down here somewhere, these guys never wanted to be anything else but strongmen. And it was a sort of moment, wow. Said, Kaz, that's you, baby. That's why. You're on ESPN more times than there are days in a year at that time. And, I guess, if I had a skill as well, Neil, it would be finding niches. Find small ponds and then all right, you're only a small minnow, but make sure you're bigger than all the others. Sadly, Strongman's too big a pond now. If I came into it, I don't think I'd ever even made a mild ripple. I think I made a Britain's Strongest Man final, and then, to be brutally honest, I only did about, a handful of contests, and then I got poached by the British bobsleigh team. So I did 5 years of traveling around winter sport places. But if there's turn back the hands of time, I'd be an arm wrestler, and I would take you down, Neil Pickup. That's what I'd do. Boom!
There's a lot of people said. There's a lot of people. Back to the T.S. and Marriott's.
And then I remember I had to tell Neil Pickup's story, and I thought, and I did the right little weasels trick. I did the old, how's that feel, Neil? And then I did when you weren't quite ready, I think. And I thought, what a weasel I'm. If I actually had any power, I could have hurt you. But I remember you sort of. Anyway, I wonder what time we're going to finish all this. But you totally blew me off, man. It was, were you trying to hit me there, Colin? As in the arm wrestling term. Man.
That was more worried about the blew you off term. I'm going to go on record as saying, right, the blew me off. I did not blow him off in the Chess at Marriott. That never happened. We did arm wrestle. No blowing off.
We blew our own trumpets.
Didn't happen. His recollection of this is very different.
It was a big listing at the time, everyone was into it. Yeah, man. No, I actually I tore something here. I'm sure
I remember you hurt yourself there. It was the collateral ligament, I think, popped, didn't it? It was one of those moments when you hit the second time, a couple of really loud pops in there.
But bloody hell, didn't it hurt? It was awful, right in there. Anyway, I was just like hitting a steel bar. I guess, to be honest, that's what Magnus Samuelsson was probably like when he hit Mega Man. A bit of that, eh?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, I had Mag on last week. We did 4 shows with him, and he was recounting that. And it's funny, isn't it? It's one of those sliding doors moments. We said, I mean, he was of the opinion that had that never happened, he'd never have been the guy he was. He would never have had the notoriety, maybe not the bite to continue in the way he did. And it really did go down as one of those, like, what the moments in strongman history. I mean, when we, you know, there's a tremendous amount of nostalgia in strongman anyway, as you always point out. And I think that's the highlight reel moment. It's one of the greats, isn't it? It is definitely up there. It's one of the sort of top 10 moments that everybody looks back on and think, oh, remember that giant dude snapped his arm?
It couldn't have been more than 110 kilos, maybe, Magnus Samuelsson, and probably 6'6". He's a good 2 meters, isn't he?
Yeah. But no legs.
When you lock in as an arm wrestler and you really know what you're doing, it's like an immovable object. It's a terrifying thing to hit. But you want to know you want to go the old days? You want to know my one claim to fame? I had a strongman world record at one point.
Get off. What was that, mate? You've kept this one a bit on the quiet.
Well, it's ever so slightly shameful, if I'm truly honest. It was on BBC One in Britain's Strongest Man final. And it was the IFSA had the mock Husafeld stone that they'd made up. And it was 179 kilos or whatever it was, identical to the famous Husafeld from the Husafeld farm in Iceland. And they'd been doing records on it, and I believe, you know, like Sven Karlsson did quite a big one in 97 in Prim. There's a fantastic, iconic shot of Sven carrying it. Samuelsson didn't quite beat it. Anyway, I went and beat that world record on that stone, carrying it, picked it up, carried it. I think I did, I don't know, maybe, let me not exaggerate, but best part of 80 meters. I can remember as I was carrying it. This is part of the reason why I ended up probably ended up being a referee. The more strongman you do, the more cheats you learn about. And this is one, I swear, you know, Scout's honor, I did not mean to do it. But Paul Dickinson's commentary is priceless. If you ever find a Britain's Strongest Man final of 99, 98, whatever it was, it's Bryce he's going away. Oh my goodness, he's going for a world record. Oh, it appears the stone has slipped into his belt.
Okay.
It looks like it's being held up. The referee, Doug Edmonds, hasn't seen it. I got the commentary. He's getting away with it. And then and I remember thinking at about 70 meters, you know, just to come up to the world record, I thought, you know, I think I could take my hands off this and give it a bit of, just if I leant back. It was like, I was so slim, flabs were then once abs. It just sort of slipped down and in, you know, and I couldn't, it's a kind of pointy shape, and it was dug into my belt. I could have gone, hey, look, no hands, folks.
What was the weight of that, Colin?
I was 400 pounds. It was, yeah.
Bloody hell.
And, but then I remember thinking,
that just slipped too far.
Well, and lots of people just collapse. Of course, if you're just holding it like that, it just comes out your arms. But mine, instead of coming out my arms, it had a third prop bit underneath. It was just being held by my belt. It just sort of started at that and then slowly slipped in. And it was just, you know, being held by this, you know, 10 mil ply, super powerful, you know, leather powerlifting belt. And in the end, I actually broke the world record, but only by a little bit. And I threw it off my chest. And I can even remember staggering around a little bit. If you catch the video, I even did a bit of fake staggering.
You're like, whoa, really went for it there.
Thank goodness he beat me. Bill Pittick then went and beat me. Thank goodness he did and took the world record back properly. So that was it. That's my one shameful flirt with the world record in strongman.
So I wanted to ask you, mate, when you were involved in the bobsleigh team, the Olympic bobsleigh team, were you still heavily obsessed with strongman then? Was it always sort of the passion was strongman and bobsleighing was something else? I've got a friend who's a professional footballer, a guy called David Dunn, who used to play for Blackburn Rovers, and it's really funny because if you ever go out with David, he'll be sat in a restaurant and he'll tell you openly. People will come up and they'll try and talk to him about football. Okay, he hates football, doesn't like talking about football. Bloody excellent footballer, but he doesn't like talking about football. If you go out, he won't talk about football. He'll talk about UFC or his passions. And what I was getting at, is that similar to you? Were you sort of like, yeah, I do bobsleigh, but I have no interest in talking to you about, you know, going down a bobsleigh track. Where were you sat? Was it always strongman?
I've got to be very careful what I say, because I am I am the expert voice of bobsleigh on BBC come Discovery at the last Olympics.
Yeah.
And therefore, it is my passion year round. You know what? I just saw it as there's drivers, right? And that they normally come from the military because it takes years to become a driver. But then there's the kind of swinging whatever brigade, which is just who is the biggest, most macho, powerful man over 30 meters, bent double in Lycra in some weird winter sport location, you know. And I always thought it was cool because of cool runnings, actually. And I thought, wow, 4 sprinters can come towards it. But actually, and this is my little drive for bobsleigh, if you are really powerful over 30 meters, and I reckon there was probably a point in my life I probably could have been over 10 meters. You know, I felt like I could have taken anyone in the world, which isn't very impressive because, you know, the first race starts about 10 times that at 100 meters, you know, and I couldn't, you know, were you good at 100 meters? No, I would have sucked, you know, I couldn't have beaten a county sprinter if I'd even have polished his shoes, you know, to be honest. So, but over 10 meters, yeah, I'd have torn lumps out of him. But yeah, but I was too goofy to catch a rugby ball. So that, you know, anyway, but you would go on the back of a sled, you would jump in, and every single time I was dumb enough to go, geez, oh my God, I'm trusting myself to this lunatic squaddy in front of me, who's, you know, ever so slightly boss-eyed often, you know, hey, boss-eye, here we go, man, down, so, 18, 90, 100 miles an hour. You know, my back is destroyed from it, but I finished in 04. I did a World Champs, made the top 20 with Lee Johnson, big man, and I went to the Olympics with Neil Scarisbrick, big stuff. If only you were in better shape, we could have bloody pushed faster. But that there you go. It comes out of me naturally. Push faster. I didn't care about the finishing result. I just wanted to get it over. It was another test. I love tests. I love gym tests. I guess it's why, you know, with Darren and Eddie, of course, Eddie Hall as well. But he's official strongman is I love seeing posted numbers and
yeah.
Actually, we might be doing something on official strongman, which could be very interesting for all of those who are furiously pumping up indoors on their own. Once you finish that, we could do some weightlifting.
Yeah, I was going to say, when he issues away and listen.
Watch that space. Because, I love tests, and 10 meters, 30 meters, 60 meters, all these. It was basically, you are in the British bobsleigh team before you've even run on ice. In fact, I think the quickest ever is Herschel Walker. I want to say Herschel Walker. It's Herschel Walker. Running back. And if I got this one wrong, don't kill me.
You're right.
Don't kill me, bobsleigh community. But I think he did 6 or 8 weeks conversion for 94 Olympics with a guy called Brian Scheimer. Came 5th at the Olympics. And how much bobsleigh did he know? Nothing. You don't have to know bobsleigh. Do I love bobsleigh? Not really, because I wasn't the driver. I was just some buffoon who pushed really fast. I was the engine. And then, and it kind of comes from the old days of 19th century when, I'm off with Lord whatever out to San Moritz, and you know, we've done the summer season, but we've decided that we're going to do the winter season. We're going to invent it, and it was a British sport invented by Brits basically in San Moritz. And in fact, you can go and do something that's very cool it was like skeleton. I forget what it's called, but it's bonkers. And you go head first, and you got little spiky things, and it's madness. The Cresta run. And all these, anyone could do it, but on the board there's like Lord whatever and Duke whatever, and it's bonkers. It's proper old school, but bobsleigh, then they stuck 2 things together and articulated it, but it was always the gentleman who was paying for things, and you'd have a few chaps behind pushing him, and to be honest, bobsleigh, it always felt like a little bit like that, like there was still a wee bit of the sort of officer class up front and enjoying the ride because they were getting the full 100 miles an hour, and if they crashed, well, you were really just ballast at the back. That's all you bloody were. And the bigger you were, the better it was for weight and overcoming the friction of ice. So hence the reason, I'm making myself sound big and tough. I could sprint so fast over 30 meters. In truth, I was pretty quick, but I was a big lump. And that extra weight, when it sat in the sled, really, I was just very useful ballast. And all I did was see some bloke's arse crack. That was all I saw, because you were like that. head down like that. Mom! You know, 5:45, 6:45. Boom! Oh, God, please don't kill me, you. Oh, no. I'm not even getting any of the fun out of this, you know. But I want to make an Olympics so bad I'm ready to do this lunacy. So, there you go. No. I'll do it once just to kind of get the glazed eye. Oh, my goodness me. That you probably get if you do a lot of things like crazy things, a bit crazy, like jumping off a bridge and, you know, bungee jumping or go up in a jet plane. And bobsleigh will definitely give you that. That's for sure. But you soon get over that when you realize that this is, you just, when do we get to the Olympics? Hey, Dad, when do we get to the Olympics? I just want to get my badge. Get the hell out alive. You know, strongman is endorphins personified. You know, it's just, strongman is magnificent to me because you achieve goals that are you and you only, number one.
Yeah.
I like me only sport. Not that I, you know, I don't, but I think something about it, hence football isn't always, it's not been my bag, soccer. Even the big sports like, you know, American football or whatever, football. How can you say who's the greatest? Okay, it's quite statistical, lots of sacks, lots of this, lots of running yards, but, you know, you strip all your buddies away and then it's just you. And that's where individual sports are, especially of the macho ilk.
Yeah, the alpha male sport, the alpha female sport, the sort of, it's you and you're on your own. There's nobody there to back you up. You can train all day, you can train all week, you can train all year. But when it comes down to the line, it's you. Nobody else.
Did you ever go in and fight in a boxing match or a
yes.
MMA? You did?
Yeah.
Once? Many?
Oh, a number of times, yeah, many times. But I always used to be, it was always quite weird for me. I think I knew that I wasn't cut out for it because the idea of it appealed to me. I say I wasn't cut out for it. I enjoyed fighting. I used to really like it once I was fighting. But beforehand, I didn't. I was always very nervous about it beforehand. I distinctly remember being, you know, getting ready to go up and thinking, what am I doing here? And I was always very nervous, a little bit, probably scared. I was a bit scared, I think. And then once I got in there, and once I got hit, you know, that went away and you were in it, you know. But I definitely think that was, I did get scared before fights. I can remember, as I was brought up in the States, I was 14, from 6 to 14. And I did I did high school wrestling or junior high or whatever it was at the time. And there isn't a man on earth who doesn't go out there and get, if you go out there and get your ass whipped by because you used to have just random draws and you go out there, and there you are at 8 years old, like getting choked out on a mat by some enormous armpit because you're the podgy kid who's in the over 110 pound class like I was. And here's, 200-pound Pete just choking you out with a stinky armpit, age 10. And you get up and you give it some, I think I hurt my arm. You haven't hurt your arm at all. I think I've hurt my ego. My arm. And I tell you what, if you ever want to fight, I just love to have done an adult MMA or, cause I love that. And what you kind of get desensitized to it. I imagine after a 30-year layoff, I'd now absolutely shit myself if I would ever go out and face somebody other than with 10 pints in me, But yeah, so good for you, man. Did you win any? Oh yeah. I was actually pretty good at it. I was pretty good at it. But as I say, I think you could. In fact, my start in arm wrestling came from fight sports, originally in fight sports. Tried various forms, box, karate, judo, various things, but boxing particularly was the way I was leaning to. I was going more towards, and my mum didn't want me doing it. My mum's side of the family, we've had some very good boxers. My mum's uncle, a fella called Billy Bryan, went on to fight for the world title, fought Jackie Brown for the lightweight world title, went the distance as well. Yeah.
What kind of time? What period was that? Time period?
Oh God, it'll have been in the 20s.
Crikey.
You know, it was 20s or 30s. If you look him up, Billy Bryan, if you look up Jackie Brown's fight record, you'll see he got to fight Jackie Brown, lost the fight actually on points, but still took the world champion to the distance, you know, so no mean feat at a time when there was a lot of boxers in a lot of towns. He hailed from Walkden, Bolton, sort of not far from where we are. But my mum, her other uncle, her Uncle Sam, had a brain aneurysm and died.
Right.
So, that stayed with my mum. She didn't want me boxing. My dad was like...
From boxing?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Oh. Or at least that's what, you know.
They thought.
They thought. So, my dad was all for it. You know, my dad was proper man's man. You know, he loves the fight sports and the motorcycle race, all the things I've done. The motorcycle racing was my dad as well, you know. So, did all those kind of sports, but my thing in fight sports was always I was strong. I was very explosive and strong. So, and I liked it. As I say, I did enjoy, I enjoyed it. So, I wanted something that had that combat element, retained that combat element. And when I came across arm wrestling, I really enjoyed it because of that, because it is part combat sport. It crosses the boundaries between strength and combat sport. So when I started to get into that, my dad was like, well, you know, maybe you stick with this and stop boxing because your mum doesn't like you boxing, you know, getting hit in the head, it's not good. And I don't know, that was definitely a factor. Because my mum would be upset when I fight. She'd cry when I fight. I'd come back to, you know, eye up, lip up, busted nut. She didn't like it. She wasn't happy at all. So, yeah.
Especially with those pretty looks you had back in the 80s.
Yeah, about that. And you know, also there's something in it. Unless you'd have known, I'd have already known. If you were ever going to do anything, you'd have known, wouldn't you? You know, I'm sure your top fighters know early on that that's what they want to do. You know.
Yeah. Yes and no. Yes and no. I'll say this, right. That often, especially truly big, powerful men, you know, just because, you know, if there's some guy sitting at home who's 15 and he thinking, geez, why aren't I as big as my pals or my older brother or whatever? My brother was like a man at 11. He was, you know, and he only ever he had 5'11 3/4, and he was a proper grown man, hairy and everything, and a bull of a guy. But I kind of grew a bit slower, so I was probably about 15. Gregor Edmonds, who I mentioned earlier, you know, he was still shorter than me at 16. And by the time he was, obviously made a World Strongest Man final at 6'5" and a whatever, and has some of the most enormous wrists you've ever seen.
Yeah, it really does.
Actually, some people, you know, some of the biggest just carry on growing and growing and growing and growing and interesting though, because I think a lot of it's confidence. Funny you just said that. I didn't do this study, but I kind of read it in a slightly jargony place. But people who are, I'm talking Britain here now, September 1st to December 31st, if you're born in that period, that takes up most of the Olympic athletes who go to the Olympics for Britain.
Really?
Why do you think that is?
September 1st to December 31st.
What's September 1st? What date is that for most people, especially young people? It's kind of the start of the new year, as in school year.
Okay, yeah, I get you.
You know where I'm coming from? September 1st. So, for example, my son is Darren Sadler.
Yeah, so
I told you I'm on a podcast. Anyway, Bryce, where are you? Big fingers of his. Yes. Point being is my son's October 4th or something. You know, I think the best footballer in his year, he was telling me, was a friend called Arthur. And Arthur's born September 1st. Mm-hmm. Now, it's a massive advantage to be born in that period because you learn. Because you think about it, when someone's age of 6 and the other one's 5 and a bit, it's like
into confidence.
A 10th, but like a 20th, 20% older, you know? It's a massive thing. And
the funny thing is, mate, I was always extremely confident. When I was a kid, I mean, to a ridiculous level.
What month is your birthday?
January. But I was like, up to being 18, if guys had come up to me in the pub and they'd be like, "Oh, Neil, could you climb the wall of the pub using only your lips?" I'd be like, "Yeah."
Okay. No problem.
It was just, I thought I was immortal. And, lost a few teeth and got a few scars over my eyes for that. You know what I mean? As you do. But, definitely always had that confidence in sports, without a doubt. Never stopped me from being a bit like, a bit nippy when we were just about to go into a fight or something. Never really got that too much when I was arm wrestling. Weirdly. Don't know why.
Well, I think you seem to be, I sort of thought, you always do, don't you? People imagine strongmen are kind of cavemen with little science, but I kind of imagined after doing strongman, I think I met you because I was fancying doing a bit of arm wrestling because I was injured from everything else. And I thought, surely I'll just go in there and tear a few arms off and beat them to death, But no, au contraire, there was guys it's extraordinary the sort of levels people take anything to be the best in the world.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
I guess that's kind of, to bring this round to why the heck I'm probably on here, this podcast. I always knew strength was magnificent. And I always thought the world was ever so slightly weaselly in their sort of, I don't know, the whole kind of metrosexual thing was just a bit like, what's wrong with being, as Rob Kearney says, and I love this from Rob, uber macho. When I asked him once in an interview, being the only gay strongman, is it, do you ever have problems? The guys who looked at me like, what? No. Why would anyone do that? It's all about numbers. That's all that matters. It's all, and I thought that it's so uber macho was the term he used. And it's true, it's all about, I have no idea if there's ever been a great gay arm wrestler or a great gay UFC, someone who's come out, fighter. But it's
not anybody that's really got, I'm sure there are, yeah, but not anybody that's, been sort of, Rob, nothing like Rob, where Rob is very much vocal about it. That hasn't been the case in either of those sports that I'm aware of. Certainly not in arm wrestling. Maybe there has been someone in MMA, but not that's been widely
vocal. I'm not sure about Rob. The whole hashtag strongest gay, it was a bit of a giveaway. But yeah.
Rob's an incredible athlete, though, isn't he?
You know what, Rob, and I don't think he would be upset if I just said this about him, but he is, to look at when I first met him, he wasn't wildly impressive. He was only 105 kilos, and he was, not there's anything wrong with that, but he wasn't like a small Pudzianowski, he was just a kind of strongest dude, but what he did to how he looked didn't match.
No, not at all.
Quite weird when that happens. You're just like, what? What? Am I doing something wrong? Why can't I do that? It's got to be an error here. You just look like a dude, and you're killing it. But yes. In fact, Rob's probably the smallest guy at Worlds, actually.
Astronomically strong individual. Belies his power, athleticism. He's got it all. You only have, like you say, you look at Rob. You look at Obi, and he goes out and he does the log press, and then you look at Rob Kearney. Obi's a monster. I'll tell you what. You throw me into a prison cell, and you throw me into a prison cell. Which dude do I want crawling down off the top bunk? Is it Robert Oberst? Is it Rob Kearney? I'll take Kearney all day. Robert Oberst climbs off that top bunk, and your knees are rattling. But I'll tell you what it is. And everything else will be rattling in 25 minutes if the move took him. But let's be honest, when you look at Rob Kearney and he's pressing a 211 kilo, did he get at the log press? What would he get? Was it 211 he got?
No, he did, I believe 214.
214 kilo?
Past sold record, yeah.
Wow.
Crazy.
People don't. I'm conscious we'll have to finish this first episode and be right back in a second with another one. But just to end that on, and we'll pick it straight up again where we left off. For all you watching at home, Rob Kearney, 214 kilogram lock. I don't think people actually, or a lot of people don't identify with just how heavy that is. I mean, that is really fucking heavy.
I was there when 186 and a half kilos went up. I was there when 187 and a half went up. I was there when 190 went up for the first time ever in 2004 at one of my contests in Russia at Luzhniki Stadium. When we couldn't sell many tickets, so Luzhniki sent 3,000 Marines to sit in the crowd. It was one of the quietest crowds ever. But Big Z, shoot me. I'm so sorry. Raymond's Manis. I throw myself on the floor. Big Ray did 190 kilos. And I can remember, that's only 2004. Mm-hmm. Yeah, people are slightly ashamed of 190 kilos these days. It's ridiculous. I mean,
it is ridiculous.
Not that many have done it in competition. I mean, quite a buzzword of mine.
Don't even get me going on the in-competition thing. That's coming later, mate. Keep watching. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, as I say, we will wrap up this first episode. And this is a series with Colin. We're gonna give this man some airtime that he doesn't ordinarily get. He's usually focused on others. He's usually focused on what's going on with the event. Not this time, ladies and gentlemen. It's all about the Bryce.
Right.
If you like what we do, remember, please do like it, share it, tell your mates, have it tattooed on your floppy dog, whatever you want to do, but let people know. And we will see you back with more from Colin Bryce in part 2 very soon, ladies and gents. Till that time, take it easy, peeps.